Aloha, good afternoon. It is 2:32 p.m. on Wednesday, July 26, 2023, and I call the Committee on Housing, Sustainability, and Health meeting to order. Vice Chair Kia Aina is excused. I'd like to welcome committee members, Council members Tyler Dos Santos Tam and Augie Toba, and also welcome Council Member Tupola to the chamber. I believe Council Member Okimoto will be joining us shortly. Pursuant to Hawaii Revised Statute Section 92-3.7, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology, with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony remotely or in person in the council chamber on all items on the agenda where each item is taken up. All persons who register to testify in person will be called upon first, followed by those who register to testify remotely. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to testify following the registered testifiers. For those standing by remotely, please utilize the Zoom raise hand feature to indicate your desire to speak. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. I will then identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. Before testifying, each person shall state their full name and will be limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes at a remote meeting to be conducted by roll call vote unless unanimous. I will first call for objections, and if there are any, I will call for a roll call vote. Also like to welcome Councilmember Okimoto to the chamber. For those council members participating from outside of the council chamber, which I believe there are none, at this time, under HRS Section 92-3.7, the meeting will be automatically recessed if we lose audio-visual contact with you and cannot reconvene until we reestablish contact. Therefore, please announce beforehand if you'll be voluntarily signing out of the meeting. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described on the posted agenda. As a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones for the meeting. And now turning to agenda item number 1 for action, resolution 23-174, accepting a gift valued at $2,160 from the American Association of Motor Vehicle Administrators for a supervising driver license examiner of the Department of Customer Services to attend the commercial driver license CDL Train the Trainer class in Salt Lake City, Utah from August 7 to 11, 2023. Members, we have posted to the agenda a proposed CD1 OCS 2023-670 dated 7/20/2023, 10:37 a.m. to the resolution. For your information, the summary of the amendments are listed on the agenda. From the administration, I believe we have Michael Yagi, Assistant Program Administrator of the Department of Customer Services. Aloha, if you could just step up to the mic, identify yourself, and maybe just share a little bit about the value that this gift will bring to the department.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Yagi. I'm the Assistant Program Administrator for Motor Vehicles for the City and County of Honolulu. So this session that the CDL that my supervisor is going to go to is for, they're going to be discussing new techniques on training the trainers. I think the objective is to find easier ways to train the CDL examiners. So she's going up there to learn new techniques, new policies, new procedures, and she's going to bring them back to Honolulu to help train our staff here in an effort to hopefully make it easier for some of these CDL drivers to qualify and continue driving on our roads.
I appreciate that, Ms. Yagi.
Thank you.
Any questions from any other council members? Councilmember Tupola.
Aloha, thank you for being here. Quick question. So is this annual training that you guys attend, or is this going to be the first time?
This one I think is the first one I've heard of. And I think they're putting this one on specifically for, there's definitely a shortage of CDL drivers across the nation. I think they're specifically looking to target acquiring more and building interest and making it easier for the trainers to teach the new techniques.
I was just wondering if it was going to have to be something that we annually looked at and if it should be incorporated into the budget. Did you guys reach out to AAMV or did they reach out to you for this class?
State DOT reaches out to us because the CDL program falls under the state DOT's jurisdiction. But we're definitely looking at incorporating this into future budgets because we definitely think that these AMVA meetings and these conventions, they're really valuable.
Yeah, no, yeah, sharpening your skills is awesome. I had never seen this before, so if you guys feel that it's valuable, I would encourage that to wrap that in there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Mahalo. Any other questions? Sensing none. Thank you, Mr. Yagi.
Thank you.
Looking at the in-person testifiers, I don't see any registered testifiers for this item. Is anyone in the chamber wishing to testify in person? Seeing none, we'll move on to remote testimony. And I see no registered remote testifiers. Madam Clerk, is there anyone online remotely wishing to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members, before I make my recommendation, is there any discussion? Sensing none, the chair is going to recommend that Resolution 23-174 be amended to the posted CD1. Are there any other discussions, objections, or reservations? Seeing none, the Resolution 23-174 is amended to CD1, and then the chair then recommends that the Resolution 23-174 CD1 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Mahalo, Mr. Yagi, again. Moving now to agenda item number 2. For action, Resolution 23-168, urging the city administration to establish a Kapa'a Quarry Transfer State Reusable Material Collection Site pilot program. I know we have Mr. O'Keefe, Michael O'Keefe, Deputy Director of the Department of Environmental Services here as he steps up. Wanted to also welcome Councilmember Say and Chair Waters to the chamber. Before I go to Deputy Director, Chair Waters, did you have any explanation you wanted to provide or not at this time?
Not at this time, thank you.
Okay, mahalo, Chair. Aloha, Deputy Director.
Aloha, Committee Chair, Council members. Mike O'Keefe, Deputy Director with ENV. So ENV strongly supports this resolution. So the pilot program would essentially establish a location on the property of the Kapa'a transfer station where folks could drop off items that still have some life left in them and aren't quite ready to be disposed of yet. So reusable items essentially, and this is a really important part, a really critical part of the island's waste management system. We call this, it's basically called a source reduction program, reducing waste at the source. This program would divert material from disposal and H-Power and ultimately the landfill. So, and that's a really important thing for us to do right now, especially right now. So, yeah, and source reduction is a really important part of our 10-year integrated solid waste management program. So strongly support. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Mahalo, for all the work you're doing, Deputy Director. Council members, are there any questions for the Deputy Director at this time? Councilmember Toba.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha. Is this a project that would be established and run by the city?
So the idea is for the city to bring in a private entity. I think Reuse Hawaii is identified in the resolution. This is right within their wheelhouse. They have a great operation going on Kaka'ako already. We would bring in Reuse. They would set up on property and have a station where folks could come in, drop off their green waste, their trash, but also their reusable material at this. Reuse would gather the material, take it back to their base yard, Kaka'ako, sort through it, and then hopefully find a second home for it.
Also, are there areas that do this type of things, like in other jurisdictions?
Yeah, so that's a great question. There are. Hawaii County specifically does this program at several locations on the island. And I think, that would ultimately be the plan for us. We're going to pilot it at the Kapa'a transfer station. And if it's successful, I think we'll look at programming money into next year's budget request
Yeah,
to expand.
Yeah, I think on Hawaii Island, they even give people an opportunity to buy the products on site, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you. Deputy Director O'Keefe, thanks for being here. So because it's a pilot, is that why a company is being named as opposed to going out to bid or doing an RFP?
It's a good question. I'm not exactly sure as to the answer on that, but I do know, generally speaking, when it comes to pilot programs, so basically testing something out, there is some flexibility within the procurement code when it comes to competitive solicitations for services for the city. So I think that's what's happening here is we can pilot it with one company, assuming it's successful, and we want to expand to more disposal sites. We would probably go through a competitive procurement route for that.
That'd be great. And separate from this, it obviously reduce, reuse, recycle is something huge. I appreciate all of that. That's what we need. The majority of my district has these different organizations that try to do reduction in materials. The city recently gave out an RFP for metal contract for collection at our convenience facilities, and they have not been going regularly out to grab that metal. So I would like you to please look into that. I'll write you a formal letter about it, just making sure that the companies that we do RFP out, that they're doing the work that was asked of us, because for us, it's very important that these materials get picked up, or else if our convenience centers get overflowed, they just close it down for the day until they can start to remove things and make more space. Other than that, I do think that the new proposed area in Kapolei, the area that you guys are going to have a new convenience center, I don't know what year that's going to be, this would be good for that. I do think that we should look into something similar to what they have on the Big Island, where it's almost like you can choose, right? You can put your metal here, you can put your recyclables here, you can do your bulk trash here. So if it was a one-stop shop and this was included in it to also have household items that were going to be dropped off and maybe another company comes and sees if they're still usable, I think the parcel you guys have in Campbell is going to be large enough to do this, correct?
It should be, yeah. It should be able to accommodate this.
So hopefully after the pilot and then once things get moving in Kapolei, I'd love to see this there.
Great, yeah, us too, thanks.
Thank you, Chair.
Mahalo for that. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Deputy Director.
Thank you.
Seeing no in-person registered testifiers, is there anyone in the chamber? Ms. Young, if you want to step up and go ahead and proceed. Never mind. Okay. So Ms. Young identified she no longer wants to testify. Seeing no one else in the chamber, I believe we have remote testifier Quinn Vidum. Madam Clerk, is Mr. and Mrs. Vidum online?
Chair, the testifier is present.
Okay, please proceed.
Aloha, Chair, members of the committee. Thanks so much. Quinn Vidum from Reuse Hawaii. We're a waste reduction organization and super excited about this. It's a really kind of low-hanging fruit in terms of waste reduction. And I just wanted to mention we've been to the Kapa'a Quarry site and met with the operators out there, and just to make sure they're all great with it, and even identified where the spot would be and sorted through some of that stuff. In another lifetime, I ran a site like this in Washington State, and super impactful because there's a lot of people that go to the transfer stations that just have good material, but they don't have an option to reuse or recycle it. Except for scrap metal, they do collect at Kapa'a Quarry. So this will just open up a lot of opportunities for more waste reduction and provide low-cost resources for the community. So happy to help. We're excited to help make this a successful venture and pilot project. Mahalo.
Mahalo for your testimony and all the work that you're doing. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Vidum. Madam Clerk, are there any other testifiers online?
Chair, there are none.
Mahalo. Members, before I make my recommendation, is there any discussion? Chair Waters.
Thank you, Chair. No, super glad that you had a hearing on this today. It's really exciting. I did go and tour Reuse Hawaii, and I've often bought things from them independently of that. But to go down there and see their operation and see what they do, reusing things when they go and dismantle homes. They also take donations. And I myself used to, when I was a little kid at Kapaa Quarry, when there was an actual dump, as a little kid, I would always find stuff in the mounds of garbage thinking, I want to keep that or keep this. This way, people can actually donate it directly to Reuse Hawaii, and then Reuse Hawaii can work on it, spruce it up, and then put it out there for sale. And oftentimes, much less than what it would cost at a store. So I'm really excited about this, and thank you, ENV, for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Any other questions? We'll definitely get Reuse Hawaii on our site visit list for our district. Any other discussion before I make my recommendation? Seeing none, Chair recommends that Resolution 23-168 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. And then that takes us to agenda item number 3 for action, Resolution 23-167, urging the city administration to provide hazard or premium pay to eligible independent contractors and eligible employees of firms contracted by the city who performed essential and hazardous work during the COVID-19 public health emergency. Councilmember Tupola, did you have any other explanation at this time you wanted to add?
Yeah, so recently the council had adopted Resolution 23-114 in urging the city to do hazard pay for all city workers during COVID. It's important for us to acknowledge that there are many contracted city workers that, although not listed as city employees, still had to work during that time. I'm grateful for Department of Human Resources, who is trying to get out hazard pay for everyone who did that, but I just wanted to make sure that this group of workers that did do and perform city work were included in the urging of hazard pay to be rewarded. Thank you.
Mahalo for that explanation. And then we do have Director of the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, Andrew Kawano. Director, if you would want to come up and just identify your position or the administration's position on the resolution.
Thank you, Housing Chair Wire, Chair Waters, Honorable Council members. I'm Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. As Council Member Tupola stated, we are seriously looking at hazard pay for civil service employees. We're going to send surveys out to the departments to get more information to ensure that our payments for hazard pay are risk-based, based on very high risk, medium risk, lower risk factors, based on information provided by OSHA. So we're in the process of doing that. We are prioritizing employees first because we have to get back to the unions. And at that time, after our assessment is done, we determine what our liability is, if any. We will assess, contract workers. However, the priority is to take care of employees first.
Mahalo, Director. Any questions from any other council members? Councilmember Dos Santos, Dan.
Thank you. Given that these are contract workers, what is the role of collective bargaining in all of this, and when would the next opportunity for that occur?
I think we'll determine that when we cross that bridge, because as council members have stated, many of the contract workers on personal service contracts work side by side with employees. So we'll make that assessment when we get there. But the focus is to take care of employees first, especially our public safety employees that were in the higher risk categories.
Councilmember Tolba.
Thank you, Chair. Director, what is the financial impact?
We don't know yet. We're in the process of coming up with a settlement amount.
Okay.
And it's going to be risk-based, as I mentioned. The surveys that we will be collecting from our departments will provide information on classes of employees that were most at risk on a department-by-department basis, and less at risk, and so on and so forth. We're trying to truncate and group employees so that they receive hazard pay, if any, commensurate with the risks that they were exposed to.
And do we have SLR, RF funds available to cover the costs?
We do, and in
Okay.
fact, we're going through the very deliberate process of looking at both tranches as to awards we have in place. In addition to that, we're looking at projects that haven't gotten off of the mark yet, and we are in the process of recovering funding that we don't believe will be spent in time, so that SLFRF can be applied to, pay, cover the liability as much as possible and legally allowable.
Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Tupola.
Yeah, thank you, Director, for being here. And I hear the caution in your voice as you talk about it, because one, we have funds that we need to expend for this purpose, which we want to do expeditiously so that they don't, that we don't have to give it back to the federal government. And two, because every department, even when we do our budget, right, every department has some form of contracted workers built into theirs. So I'm grateful that you said that many of these contracted workers work side by side our employees. And so I hear what you're saying, and I'm grateful that you guys are going to take it from highest risk down, because especially for EMS, HPD, I still have people in the city asking me, when is hazard pay going to come? And I know you guys are working on that. So I think for those departments that did have to go out and respond, especially their contracted workers, but we, leave it to you. The resolution is just the urgence to consider it in your thought process.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Mahalo. If there are no other questions, we'll go to in-person testimony. Mahalo, Director. So registered testifiers, we have Kevin Holu, followed by Lavan Le'i, followed by Philip Butai. Whoever, Mr. Holu, do you want to come up to the mic, identify yourself, and proceed with your testimony? Mahalo for being here.
Aloha, Chair and council members. Thank you, first of all, for all your hard work and diligence you do for the state of Hawaii. My name is Kevin Holu. I have been a bus operator for the Oahu Transit Services for 26 years. When pandemic struck, we had to work under the conditions of what we had to work on and continue to work on. We did it with the most honorable pride because we wanted to serve our community. During those first times, I did most of us, and I stand here on behalf of 1,700 plus members of Oahu Transit Services, and we worked hard to work through this pandemic and keep ourselves safe so we don't take these things back home to our families. Like you, many of you, we didn't know what we was under. In 2021, I caught COVID. My entire family caught COVID, but I the one ended up in the hospital for almost 3 weeks, surviving on 70 liters of oxygen just to try and survive. When I came to, from being unconscious 2 days later, my wife was the next door, going through the same thing as well. So from that time to now, we currently still deal with the health issues. As you can tell, breathing and stuff is pretty hard to do because the lungs will get scarred. So on behalf of that, on behalf of the members, we strongly encourage you all to consider the hazardous and premium pay we need. Unfortunately, some of my coworkers didn't make it out. They passed away, and God bless their souls and their families. And of course, the people across the state of Hawaii. Today, currently, I stand as the president and principal officer of Hawaii Teamsters and Allied Workers Local 996. And I'm asking you all to please consider the hazardous and premium pay for our membership. Thank you.
Mahalo, Mr. Holu. Any questions for the testifier? Councilmember Tupola.
How many contracted workers, Mr. Holu, would you say versus city employees are we talking about?
Right now with the Oahu Transit Services, the city bus and the handy van, we have at least 1,700 plus employees that have been working through it. That's not the only company. As I represent the Teamsters, the union membership, I have multiple companies. I would say at least 4,000 members total.
Are they contracted city workers or are they city employees?
I believe contracted. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, just for example, like Hawaii Gas, Air Gas, and all those different companies that was claimed essential workers as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Since you no other questions, mahalo, Mr. Holu. Lavan Le'i. Mahalo for being here.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and present in front of you, before you guys today. COVID affected everybody differently, and as a bus operator, when we were there working through the guidelines and whatever the CDC was able to come up with, we had no option, right? We were deemed essential workers and we had to work. During COVID, my mom went through her second round of chemo. So there were days when our weeks, when the 10 days came out that we slept outside, so I didn't see my mom. And I would go inside, give her a hug. I love you, Mom. Next day, go back to work, and someone's hacking along on the bus. And I'm like, 10 more days. And again, I know that was our choice to go to work, but you know, as being an essential worker and being able to, as public transportation and taking pride in what we do and serving the community of Oahu, you know, we made that choice to go out there and support the community. And that was just one of many obstacles and fears that we faced during the uncertain time. Missing multiple events, I'm sure everybody did because of COVID. But for my biggest thing, it was sleeping outside to feel safe, only to go in and love up on our family for the next day, have someone on the bus hacking, and we take that next 10 days outside just to keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could just also state your name for the record. I know we have it down on the paper.
Apologize. My name is Lavon Kingsley Le'i.
Mahalo. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony today.
you.
And then final registered testifier, Philip Bute or Butai. Mahalo, if you want to come up and proceed when you're ready.
I'm gonna use my phone. You're supposed to turn it off here. Good afternoon. My name is Philip B. Butai. I work as a transit supervisor, temporary training instructor, and a bus operator for OTS. Okay, for most commonly known as the bus. Okay. To each and every one of you, congratulations for winning your respective district. Sorry, I've never done this before. Okay. When COVID-19 began, I, like most people, was consumed with fear due to the unknown. Okay. Some government functions shut down, reopened with workers having the option of working from home remotely. I would have liked to have that option. I couldn't have that. HPD, EMS, HFD also were not given that option. Working for OTS, most of the work interacted with first responders, namely HPD, EMS, HFD. When COVID-19 was declared a pandemic, for HPD, EMS, HFD, it was business as usual. The same with OTS, the bus. We here at OTS continued our mission statement to provide safe, accessible public transportation driven by the spirit of aloha. As a hardworking, tax-paying, voting resident of the city and county of Honolulu, state of Hawaii, we humbly ask that you consider adding an amendment to include proud OTS employees such as myself. The denial of the hazard pay for us should not be based only on the contract wording technicality by OTS with the city and county of Honolulu. We were on the front line with the first responders. I was there during accidents, incidents. I was there investigating, working side by side with them. Thank you for your time.
Mahalo for your testimony. Any questions for the testifier? Seeing none, thank you again for being here and all you do. That concludes registered testifiers. Is there anyone else in the chamber? Can please come forward, state your name, and then proceed when you're ready.
Aloha mai kako. My name is Joelle Hussey, and I'm here to support Resolution 23167. I wanted to add to Lavon Kingsley Leigh's testimony when he said that he had to stay apart from his mother. I just wanted to add that I went to that funeral. So that kind of chucks me up here because that time where he could have spent with her diminished because of his frontline work duties. But also I want to let you guys know that the bus, the OTS Ohana, is one of those that have to report to work when there's hazards in any kind, when you have a hurricane, when you have anything that needs to be evacuated, it's the bus that gets called. And those drivers will do all that they need to do to make sure that the public is safe. So I'm just want to ask and humbly, really think about this resolution, because these people who gave their blood, sweat, and tears took care of us. And if we can somehow think of a way that we can take care of them now. Mahalo.
Mahalo for that. Any questions? Sensing none, thank you for your testimony. And is there anyone else? Ms. Young looks like she's ready. And then if anyone else is wanting to testify, can just line up. Otherwise, it looks like it'll be you ending us with in-person, Ms. Young. So proceed when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and the committee, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES in strong support of the hazard pay. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, it seems like there were essential workers who didn't get their pay. And as per the Department of Labor and Statistics from the federal government provides statutory provisions, statutory guidance to what laws apply to this situation. So I wish to comment because, of course, the essential workers are the lifeblood of our community. And we want to make sure that justice is served and that they can get their pay. Thank you.
Mahalo for that. And see no other in-person testifiers. I believe our registered or remote testifiers also testified in person. Madam Clerk, is there anyone online wanting to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So with that, we'll close testimony and go into discussion. Is Director Kawano still present? If you could come up, sorry, the screen blocks my view. So I just wanted to check in because we talked about, or you were mentioning earlier about how priority will go based on risk level. Is it fair to assume that the administration would consider bus drivers, bus folks that are working on the front lines in that capacity is probably one of the highest risks alongside our first responders?
So with regard to bus riders, it applies to what we talked about earlier. We're gonna look at where we are when we come up with what we think we can afford, what we believe we can afford. The estimate. The goal is to fund it with FRF funding, and we'll see where we are. We have to take care of the employees first. That's priority number one, and we'll go from there.
No, I understand and appreciate that. I mean, So rail, that's under DTS, so those staff would all be city employees?
They're not all, there are some employees there, and there are contract workers as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
I only ask because I have one of the DTS shirts I got from a bus driver, and it has rail on it, and the bus, and the handy van. So it's like, for external purposes, all these folks are part of the city, Ohana, right? And so I definitely think it's a priority to be mindful of, those payouts as well, right?
Yes, we hear you. We understand what the resolution says, but we don't have unlimited resources as well. We're going to have to really take a close look at this.
Yeah, I'll look for that. Any other questions? Councilmember Tupola.
No questions, but thank you, Chair, for bringing that up. Do you offhand know how many OTS workers are contracted as opposed to city employees?
Not off the top of my head.
I'll try to find the stat when it resurfaces for full council, just so we can all share and know. Because I do think for a lot of departments, they preferred X amount of employees and X amount of contracted workers. When we had our budget discussions, some of the departments explained to us why contracted workers, the lifeguards explained it to us. They all explained why sometimes it's easier for them to get people employed and working under a contract versus going through HR. So I think for the purposes of this discussion, I understand that there's that differentiation of an employee versus contracted. So thank you for the consideration. Do you know how much FRF funds are set aside for hazard pay?
Yeah, Councilmember Tupola, we're still in the process of, reviewing all of the projects that had been awarded, as well as a status of projects that haven't gotten off of the ball yet. And we're in the process of coming up with an amount. We don't have it yet.
Okay. Do you
We're
think,
trying to be deliberate and fair with departments that were awarded monies.
yeah, no, understood. Do you think that at the next full council hearing, that would be an adequate amount of time, or you think you need more time than that? I just wanted to do the follow-up since I introduced the resolution, and I want to report back to them on what we think could be a timeline and what we think is the quantity of money.
So if you're talking about this meeting next month?
No, I was talking about our next full council meeting in August.
Oh, full council, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to give you adequate time so that you have, I know you like to be exact and accurate, which is what we need from BFS. So what amount of time do you think you need?
I think we can report where we are at that time because we're in progress right now
Okay.
of looking at where we are. By the way, when is the next council meeting?
August 9th.
Okay, that's kind of close.
Too soon.
Yeah. I would say a month would be better.
Okay, I'll follow up with you in a month. I just want to say this out loud so that I have some accountability here on when I will be doing follow-up with those people who had asked me, whether contracted or employed, because even those who are employees have asked me, when is all of that going to pan out, which I don't know. So I'll do a follow-up. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Since no other discussion, Chair Waters.
Thank you. No questions, but just if we're in this discussion phase. So there was money in the American Rescue Plan that was given to the county directly from the federal government. And just to follow up what Director Kawano was saying, out of the money that came to the city, there are programs that were awarded the money. There are programs that were awarded the money but yet not yet encumbered. And then for Appendix A, which is what the city council appropriated, amongst those money, those monies, part of it was not awarded yet. And it should be, members, in the mayor's monthly message regarding the expenditure of the SLRF, which we all have access to. In the second tranche, we had appropriated it all during the budget hearings 2 years ago, but a lot of it has not been spent. So I have no problem at all reappropriating or looking at that money that has not been spent for various programs. And by the way, a lot of it was for housing and homelessness. But this is also very important to make sure we take care of our workers who put themselves on the line every day for us. So I got no problem reappropriating the money that has already been called for, that not spent. And I think that's what the director is saying, that they're going through that right now. just from a procedural standpoint, I'm not sure how we would do it, whether or not it has to be by council or if the administration can do it without us. But either way, I'm in support of this resolution as well as taking care of our city workers too. But I consider you guys city workers, so we should take care of you as well. Thank you.
Mahalo. Mahalo, Chair. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Otherwise, I'll make my recommendation. Councilmember Dos Santos, 10.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to get on the record as a frequent bus driver, including during the pandemic with my little mask on. I really want to appreciate the efforts that our operators as well as the support staff at the bus at OTS did to keep our city running. And I think that this is a really important step forward. I know that we need to work with either the federal funding or through budget and fiscal to find resources for this. But I think this is a very important priority for our city.
Mahalo. With that, and if there's no further discussion or comment, the chair would recommend that Resolution 23167 be reported out for adoption. Any additional discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Mahalo again for everyone that came out to testify today. Agenda item number 4 on our agenda is Resolution 23-162, initiating amendments to the revised charter of the City and County of Honolulu 1973, amended 2017 edition, as amended, relating to the establishment of a climate resiliency fund. At this time, if Chair Waters, would you like to offer any additional explanation?
Sure. Thank you so much for having a hearing on this important measure. So what this would do, would set up a climate resiliency fund. As you know, right now, 1% of the revenue from city property taxes goes towards the Affordable Housing Fund, and 1/2 goes towards the Clean Water Natural Lands Fund. What I'm proposing is taking a portion of this money and dedicating it to a climate resiliency fund to fund projects that will enhance the city's resiliency to climate change impacts, including investments in green infrastructure, renewable energy, and coastal protection measures, as well as efforts to educate residents about the impacts of